All right, so just repeating the question you have about you might be able to get Nix into your company, but you aren't sure about the whole Flake situation and it being labeled as experimental still. And just kind of some kind of clarification about that, what the best practice would be, and if it's a good idea to get into Nix now. Does that sound about accurate?
Yeah, basically, when I look at documentation, there's two different approaches fundamentally. And I don't know really if I can propose, hey, we can use this for our project, but it's experimental. It just seems a little bit crazy to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So personally, what I would go for is to hold off Flakes just for the time being. Maybe I can, well, do we have anything good to look at? Maybe the, well, let me share my browser window here. So Flakes is in the process of, there's some effort to stabilize it. We can maybe go into here RFCs 127. No, it's not this one. RFCs, this one. RFC number 136. This is an RFC that lays out the kind of first steps towards stabilizing Flakes. And so that's currently going on. Just recently, the Nix team has been founded. The Nix team is at it's in my calendar. There's weekly events, I think, on Discord. They are publishing meeting notes. Nix team creation, yeah. So the Nix team has been created recently to kind of distribute the Nix development process a bit. So the Nix repositories where all of the Flake magic currently is and currently marked as experimental. And up to recently, Ilko Dalstra, the inventor and creator of Nix, was pretty much the main person to do this development, to do the merges and the pull request reviews. And he kind of gave the direction of Nix. And that's also kind of how Flakes came to be. But recently, because this was deemed not super stable or not super sustainable, the Nix team has been created to kind of have more than one person do this flow and make sure Nix can progress and has a good vision and stuff like that. Also recently, the like this kind of all happened at the same time, I'd say. At NixCon, there was a lot of talk about, well, a lot of people met and a lot of things have been discussed. I don't think a lot of Flake discussions have been had. It was mostly kind of an avoided topic. It's definitely the elephant in the room currently in the Nix community about what should we do about that. And so I'm optimistic that in say the next year, either in the next year, I'd say Flakes can get stabilized. How it's going to get stabilized, I'm not sure. It might stay the way it is right now, which I think is problematic for some reasons, or it might change in backwards incompatible ways. And because we don't know, I would not recommend adopting Flakes at the moment, or only not like on a large scale at least. If you want to try out Flakes, because it is an experimental feature that might be cool to try out, but I wouldn't recommend like building it into the stable workflow of everyday developers just yet. Of course, I am a bit biased. Flakes does provide a lot of benefit that is a bit harder to get in standard Nix or traditional Nix, say. But there are a lot of things. There are Flakes does provide a lot of utility, but you can also get some of that in standard Nix if you adopt some conventions and stuff. So I think I'll go now into showing a bit about how I think Flakes, a lot of the features of Flakes can be gotten regardless without Flakes. So you can still use the stable Nix without depending on Flakes. Does that sound good? Or are there any questions about the things I just said?
No, that'd be very helpful. Yeah.
All right. Let me share this then. Yeah, okay. So one of the main things Flakes gets you is the pure evaluation. So let's say we have a flake.nix file. We have a simple, let's say, outputs equals self. Then let's also take Nix packages. Then let's do foo equals say import Nix packages, and then let's go. Well, let's not do anything for now. Let's just do this. See what happens. So let's say you my hello, let's call it that. So let's say you have a very simple flake here. You import Nix packages. Now we need to call Nix flake lock, I believe. Oh, actually, oh, it totally crashed. Actually, did it? No, it just was very slow. Let's do git init here because Flakes kind of relies on Git repositories. Let's add all the files here. And now we should be able to Nix Flake show. All right. So it did create a lock file automatically, locking the Nix packages, I believe. Yep. Okay, but now Nix, let's try Nix build the my hello. And so now we get this error. This is kind of the when you use Flake, you see a lot of these errors unless you well, no, not a lot. It's fairly easy to get around them. But this is the pure evaluation of Flakes. That if you use Flakes, Nix enforces a pure evaluation of your Nix code. This means there's no access to built-in .current system, which we see here. Current system is different on whatever system you evaluate it on. If I were on Darwin, it would be a different string here. And so this is why it's impure. The same expression leads to different results on different systems and environments. Similarly, there's get_env, which allows you to get environment variables in Nix, which is, of course, impure, depends on the environment. And there's a bunch of others like this. And so Flakes enables pure evaluation mode by default. Yeah, and so this isn't possible. There is a way to get around this, but this is discouraged, of course. There's impure, and this then works. But yeah, to fix it in Flakes, you have to explicitly pass the system in this case. System equals, and then let's say I'm here. Now we can't use built-in current system here because that's, of course, impure. That's also the default. And so if I pass a system here, it does work. Oh, let's remove the impure. And it also works. Now let's just check. Hello. Yep. So, okay. Now let's look at how this would look like in a default.nix. So let's try to do the very same thing. So we have the locked Nix packages in here. We have the and we built the Nix, the my hello package, which is just the hello from Nix packages. To do this, actually, let's first make this agnostic over the system. Because this is a bit usually, right, we have an output schema, which is like this. And now Flake utils would probably be good. Let's just adopt the output schema here and do it like this. So this is not the best practice in Flakes, but let's do like this. So you can also use Flake utils for this. It is a third-party community project that kind of does this for all the systems and simplifies the setup for that. Typically recommended, yeah. All right, but let's now do the same with a standard Nix, with a traditional Nix, let's say. And so first of all, you might do, so we can do it very easily like this. Import Nix packages dot hello. And this, let's also do my hello. This is an attribute set like this. Okay, this does work. And now let me evaluate that. My hello, and that works. And so this is impure. We also want the same purity of standard of Flakes. Here we have a couple impurities. We have the Nix packages is gotten from this. If we evaluate this in a Nix REPL, so can I run Nix REPL here? No. Nix REPL. If I get Nix packages from here, we can see this points to some channel, and this is different, and this path is for every user, and this path is changes when I update channels and stuff. And so this is an impurity. We want to get rid of this. A way we can do this is by simply saying, let's add Latin. Let's say Nix packages is equal to, now we can say fetch tarball. So fetch tarball is a built-in function that can fetch a tarball. In this case, we can say we fetch from github.com nixos Nix packages. Then GitHub provides archives, tar archives of the repositories at specific commits. We just need the revision here. And the revision, let's get it from the log file. Let's go into flake.log. Let's copy the same one it uses here. default.nix.tar.gz. Okay, and then we need to provide a hash. So as you can see, this is already a bit annoying to do here. In Flakes, we didn't have to do any of that. But we can get rid of this impurity now. So now let's evaluate this again. Let's do a next build. Hello again. So now it's going to take a bit longer. It's going to fetch this tarball. It's going to try to verify that the hash is correct. I'm kind of surprised that it doesn't reuse the result from Flakes, but maybe that's a different cache. So we get the hash back. Let's insert this here. And now we can build it again. And this should be the exact same result as Flakes. Let's try this. This now points to JIDY. And this points to the same thing. All right. Okay, but we also have another impurity, the same we had in Flakes earlier. That's the system, and there's actually some more. So Nix packages has kind of three main arguments that most people care about. That's overlays, config, and system, the one we saw earlier. And all of these have defaults that are impure. Overlays by default reads from home.config Nix packages and then overlays, I believe. Config by default reads from config Nix packages config.nix, and system by default is built-in current system. And so these are pretty bad here. These are like I've seen users have problems because they didn't realize the defaults were pulled in and they had some overlays or config.nix that was custom to their setup, therefore breaking some development workflow for a project. So in Flakes, this can't happen because it enforces this. In non-Flakes, we can also do this just by overriding these with empty values. So you can say overlays is empty, config is empty, overlays is list, so we pass an empty list. Config is an attribute set, so we pass an empty attribute set. System. Now we don't want to do this here because, well, the built-in stock current system impurity is okay. It's typically what users expect, and so we don't really want to make that more annoying to do. And so we want to leave this here, but we also want this expression to be like, we want to be able to change the system even if we are on a different one. So what typically is done is that we have a system argument to the top level function, which defaults to built-in stock current system. And then in the result here, or in the nixpkgs import, we just use inherit system, or system equals system. And so this is then, this expression is a pure one, but it has this impure default up here, but we can override this one. The way we can override it is, well, if you import this file from somewhere else, and say import salt.nix and then system equals the system you want, let's say Darwin. Or on the CLI, we can do, let's try this next build -a my hello. So this still works, but we can pass arg string here, system, even with autocompletion, and pass another system. Now this actually might, yeah, this works because I have a cache.nexus.org has it cached. We can also try to build it by adding a check. This only works if you have the path already in your store, and why it's called check. So it builds it again and then checks whether it results in the same path, the same binary. This will fail because I'm not on a Darwin system. Any second. Yep. But yeah, if you had a remote builders, this could also work. Yeah, so this, as far as I know, does not have any impurities. So there is also, this doesn't work super well at the moment. I hope this improves a bit, but you can also use pure evaluation mode in the old Nix commands. This is the, so there's two flags. One of them is pure, and one of them is pure eval. The pure eval one is for pure evaluation mode. The -- pure one is for Nix shell. And this is, it is a bit misleading. It just doesn't propagate your environment into the Nix shell from outside. But yeah, in this case, we want to use pure eval. And so yeah, now we get the problem here. We pure evaluation is so strict that you can't even access the default.nix file, which is evaluated by default. So what can we do? I mean, can we pass the default.nix here? No, that also doesn't work. The only way to make pure eval work is by giving an expression. So -e is short for exp. And in here, we can now evaluate things in pure evaluation mode. Let's also remove the -a here. Doesn't evaluate a derivation. Let's just do nix instantiate eval for now. So this works. And this in here is now pure evaluation. So we can try to access built-in stock current system. And it doesn't work. The attribute doesn't exist. That's the same behavior as in Flakes. But so here, the only way to actually get access to any code and to import Nix is by using built-in fetchers. And so what we can do here is use built-in fetchkit, or doesn't need to prefix. We can say URL equals now /. I believe that should work. if we just try this, it says requires a locked input, so we need to provide a revision. And so now, problem, we haven't committed our code here yet. So let's try this. Let's add everything here. Let me remove the result. Let's commit these files, initial commit. And let's try this again. Well, let's get the commit hash here. Now let's try this again. Revision equals this. And so yeah, this works now. We have something representing our source. We have an out path, which is where the source actually lives. And by the way, out path that's really how you can evaluate derivations to the path, like we can say import Nix, load Nix packages. Hello has an out path, but if you just interpolate hello or use it in anti-quotation, that's what gets returned in it. Similarly, we can also say atcher equals out path equals foo. And now we can do atchers, and it results in foo. Kind of an internal implementation detail for how derivations get interpolated to strings. Anyways, that by the side, we now have a source here. We can now import this. So we can say import this path. It gets converted to the out path for the import expression, so that works. We can say import. Now we get the lambda. That's the default.nix file here. That's a lambda at the top. And now to let's call it with well, an empty set, but that then shouldn't work because current system is not available. Let's try my hello. Yeah, that doesn't work, so we have to provide system equals this here. All right, and that works. Let me change this to a Nix build. Okay, it works. But as you can see, this is quite annoying to do. And now also every time I make a change, I'd have to commit it again. So we get a new revision. I need to interpolate the string here somehow to get the revision into the string. We can't use something like arg string here. That just doesn't work. And you can, I think Nix should do that, kind of provide a simple wrapper around something like this, a pattern where you commit it, provide the hash here, just to make pure evaluation mode work nicely. But this is how it works right now. And in Flakes, it's obviously much easier. It just does it by default. Are there any questions about this? No? All right, I'll continue on then. Something else here. So in this case, well, I guess in Flakes, let's say we want to build this flake with a different Nix packages. What we can do here is we can say override input. And so currently Nix package is locked to this revision, but we can also change this. Let's say we want to build, so GitHub, NixOS, Nix packages, and then I think let's build NixOS 2105. Sure. So it fetches it. Kind of weird that there's 0 megabytes here. All right, fetches it, updates it, and builds hello. And the output changed here, and now this would be an older hello version. Can we check this? 2.10, might be older. So this is fairly easy, but in our default.nix, we can't currently do that. We have the Nix packages hard-coded here in a let-in statement. So a common way to get her to make this work is to provide an additional argument here, which is packages, I think is the packages or Nix packages. We can also do both. So we can say Nix packages, which defaults to this tarball. We can also use another one. And then we can also say packages. Sometimes people might have a packages, like an imported Nix packages already. They might want to provide this. And so we can put this into here. So let's move this entire import right into this argument. Let's interleave this a bit here. Okay, remove the let in. My hello is now packages.hello. Okay, now
to refer to
yeah.
other attributes like that.
How do you mean the hello, or?
I mean that referring to Nix packages from the from here.
I'm not sure. Oh, you mean how this expression here refers to, like, uses this as a
Yes.
dependency, really? Yeah, that's possible. The function arguments here are just like a recursive, just like a let-in statement or like a recursive attribute set definition. So all of the definitions here are available in the others and themselves. You could even do like packages equals packages here. Doesn't make a lot of sense there.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, now with this, we can do the same thing as with Flakes. We can do Nix build. Let's not do pure evaluation mode now. So my hello works, but we can also say arg. Let's say args arg. So arg provides a Nix value as an argument. Arg string turns a given string into a Nix string directly. And in this case, we want to use arg. So let's see, we want to override Nix packages. So in here, we could say fetch tarball, and then let's see, what did we use earlier? Nix packages, and then archive in nixos 2105.tar.gz. And so in this case, we can leave out the SHA, and also this URL references actually can change over time. Just because I'm not going to bother making this pure because it's only temporary override. So this works. You could also add some additional convenience things where you can say like arg, let's say channel nixos 2105. This would then be impure, but you could also integrate it with some other purity aspects. So Nix, the traditional Nix here is it's impure by default. Well, it's a lot of things are impure by default, and you need to fix those. But you can make them pure in like all cases. So let's take a look at the flake again. So let's say we want to update the pinned Nix packages version in Flakes. The way we can do this is Nix Flake update, I believe. All right. So now I guess nothing changed. Let's say we're going to flake.nix. Oh, right. We haven't declared the Nix packages in here. It defaults to the master version of the Nixos Nix packages. But let's say we define it explicitly here. Nix packages.hero equals then GitHub nixos Nix packages. Yeah, let's say we pin it to 2105 again. So say Nix Flake update. All right, that worked. And so yeah, that's good. This worked like without elements. So we can build our hello again. We get the old hello version here. If we want to do the same in our default.nix, we would have to go in here or go on GitHub, find out this revision. And in this case, I'm going to cheat because I'm going to use the flake.log here. So let me just pick the revision from here. Go in here, change this. Now we'd have to update this hash to be invalid. Change the 0 to 1 in the beginning. Now we have to try building it again. Or you can also use a prefetcher to determine the hash beforehand. That would be useful in CI. So it's going to fetch it again. We get the new hash back. And we insert it again. All right. And now it works again. But yeah, this is obviously quite painful. There is a kind of established way to do this more streamlined, and that is using Niv. Niv is a third-party community project to essentially do this source updating for you. And so to install it, use it. I'm just going to use Nix shell here. Niv, then we can run Niv init. This creates a bunch of files. And so let's look at these files. We have a Nix directory, which it creates for us. Well, all the files are in there. It has a sources.json. That's the file, essentially the log file it uses to track sources. And so in here we can see, oh, it even auto-detected did it? Maybe it even auto-detected it, yeah. So this logs it the same way as the flake log does. And we have the sources.nix. This is just a big file managed by Niv to do the import correctly. So it has like the built-in fetchers, the packages fetchers, a whole bunch of things. So the way to use it is we can go in our default.nix here. Instead of using this here, we can do, or let's say we add another argument here, sources. So Niv, this is the typical way it's used. Nix.sources. Can also get rid of this. So this imports the sources.nix file, which also then imports all the pinned sources from the sources.json file. And so in here, we can use sources.nixpkgs instead. And yeah, let's try this out. So just sources.nixpkgs, this is the source name here. So any of them can be used. Let's try it out. My hello. All right, and it works. It seems like it used a different version here, but Niv is fairly cool. There's the CLI has a lot of things to change and update the sources. So we can say here, well, Niv shows us the source. We can modify without updating. We can update dependencies. We can add dependencies. So we can say Niv add, let's say, flake compat. Have NixOS flake compat. Okay, that's either not a thing or hidden or something. Let me. I don't know my personal repository here. Timsel system. So it by default uses the GitHub syntax or the GitHub owner and the GitHub repository. So it's fairly easy to add most dependencies. And now we also have this tracked in the sources.json file. Yep. But let me remove this again. Say Niv drop and then system. Yes. But we can also update. So let's say we update Nix packages to use which branch. We want to use the NixOS 2105 branch. All right. And build the hello again. Oh, I think it might fetch it twice here. Anyways, I think this is the same one as we have in Flake now. Yeah, 09K3. So yeah, Nev can be used as a, Nev only relies on stable Nix features. It doesn't use Flakes. So this can be used to do automatic source updates. I do need to point out though that Flakes, they do the source tracking recursively. So what would be a good example? Let me quickly search for it here.
Home manager?
Home manager. Yeah, that's good. Good one. Let me do home manager here. Well, I guess we could use the default here, but let's do it like this. Next community home manager. All right. Yeah, the dot here. Now let's do a Nix like update. And so as you can see here, it added not just home manager, but also the flakes it depends on individually. So in the flake.log file, we now have home manager. We have one Nix packages. We have another Nix packages, one of them for home manager, one of them for Nix packages. And Flake utils as well. Yes. And so this is convenient. Flakes does provide that. Nev doesn't have that. So let's say we add Nix community home manager to Nev. And now, well, yeah, now we kind of, that's also a thing with Flakes. You can just do, let's say, Nix community home manager. GitHub. Oh, let's show. So Flakes does have the standard structure that Nix traditional Nix never had. So in here we can see, okay, this Flake provides a default package. It provides a Nix's module. It provides packages for different architectures, templates as well. And so this is nice and convenient. If we want to do the same for traditional Nix, we need to really read the description of the project. We need to figure out what convention it uses. So for Flakes, let's say, let's do like import Nix sources.nix home manager. Let me just get the out path here. Let's go in here. And so yeah, now, okay, home manager provides a Flake here, but we don't want to rely on this right now. So it's the default on Nix. Now you can go in here, you can say, okay, it has this kind of structure we also had before. We have packages. It doesn't allow us to overwrite the system, but we can just overwrite the entire packages here. And so let's say, well, as Nix says, it has the home manager package itself. Let's say we want to build the docs. And so to do this, let's go back to here. So we have home manager in our sources. Let's now do home manager docs. Let's use camel case here. So we do sources.home manager. Now we need to import this because and this should work. Home manager has a .out path, which is used by default. And Nix uses the default.nix file by default. It is, however, a function, so we need to provide an argument here. And in here, we've seen that it takes a packages argument. And here we can provide the packages we have in our environment here. All right, now this is just the main attribute set. We want to get the docs. This is doc. Well, let's try that. So let's try nix build-a manager docs. That wasn't it. Was it manual? Nope. It was, docs. Okay. Docs. All right. Now we built that and it failed. Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is interesting now. I think what happened here is that the packages version we have pinned here, which is actually a fairly old one. We used the Nix 2105, well, it's like a year ago or 1.5. And so I don't think Home Manager works with that older version. In the Flake world, let's go to the flake.nix and do the same. Let's do like X Linux. Let's do well, Home Manager. Let's do Home Manager. So we've seen earlier, we can do this again. Let's Flake show. We have let's see, let's do packages dot x86 64 Linux dot docs HTML. Let's try that. So home manager dot x64 packages dot docs HTML, and let's do home manager docs again. All right, now I should be able to do home manager docs. And if we're lucky, or actually no, it should just work. Yeah, it worked. Now we could look at the docs here. But yeah, so what happened here is that while Flake, so Flake did track the recursive dependencies of Home Manager. The Home Manager itself has some pinned Nix packages that it uses and that it knows that my docs build with that Nix packages. And so it just used that version by default. While in Flake, you can override this. Like you can say, I think, Home Manager dot Yuri, what is the syntax here again exactly? Is it like this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you.
Oh no,
we could also do
inputs dot for dot package.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Let's try this. So there's this follows mechanism in Flakes where you can say that Home Manager, its Nix packages input should use the Nix packages we have pinned here. Let's try this. And so yeah, now we get the same error as before. So in this case, we wouldn't want to do this, but this would be the equivalent of what we did in the traditional Nix one. But so yeah, here, so what do we do here? We might have to, well, either we can update the Nix packages to be like up to date or use the latest one that Home Manager uses, which we'd also have to figure out somehow. We could also use a separate Nix packages. So we could go into Home Manager here and look at flake.log and say, oh, it has a Nix packages that comes from this revision. Let's copy this and do like some kind of hacky nev add Nix first Nix packages, and then can I provide arguments? Can I provide arguments here? Let's do ref like this. Oh yeah, we have the package already existing. I do think there should be a way to rename it.
There is name argument.
Thanks. Name Nix packages Home Manager. Let's call it that. fetching. And using it with, so instead of using the packages we have from here, let's use sources.nixpkgs home manager. But now this is Nix packages, not packages, so we need to import it. Now we could do the same thing as here again. Let's do it for purity. We could also probably like set like a, I don't know, Nix packages argument flag and use that. But let's just duplicate it for now. All right, now let's try it again. Nix build home manager docs. Probably fetching Nix packages right now. All right, that did work though. So yeah, if you have, I guess, packages like home manager, which have their own pinned dependencies, which they want to have pinned for themselves, Flakes does really add some value over Niv. But if you want to go, if you're okay with that, if you don't have too many of these recursive dependencies, it might be okay to just do something like this in case you need it. But also this it's kind of a two-edged sword because in the Flake world, a lot of projects do pin their own Nix packages, and this has been termed the the cat of 1,000 Nix packages instances. Let's see, yeah, 1,000 instances of Nix packages. There's a good blog post. I'm gonna link it in the chat here for now, by Jonas or Zimbatum. He talks about this bit, how it really turned out that a lot of people pin their Nix packages, and this gets out of hand quickly because, so in this case, we only have home manager, which has its own pinned Nix packages. But if we have some dependency that uses home manager, or some dependent that uses home manager as a dependency, and it also has its own Nix packages, then that there's two Nix packages in that already. Now we have our own one here as well, and this not only leads to like a lot of disk usage because you have so many Nix packages, it also leads to problems with kind of composing things because every Nix package has its own potentially has its own set of entire versions, version trees and APIs and ABIs and stuff like that. And so generally, a lot of people try to use follows as much as possible. In this case, we can't do this because we have this version is too old, so we'd have to update to a later version. Let's try this. This might actually work. Home manager docs. Yes. Let's see. Seems to work. Yeah.
By the way,
Anyways.
I had quite real experience with this. Like, we have a project. I think it's even public in Cardano area of the internet, where we have like 100 Nix packages. Some of them are different, some of them are the same, and it's usually really slow and sometimes causes problems. Yes.
Yeah. And right, you'll often see a lot of these follows in the Flake world, and so also recursive. So we might have, like, let's say we have some project.inputs.home manager trees like this, and this is a very manual process to add this. So it's a two-edged sword, yeah. Yeah, we have like 7 more minutes. Do we have any questions about this, or also something else? I'm open to anything.
So I actually have a lot of questions. I guess I'll wait till next week to add any more. I don't want to take up the whole time, but when it comes to working with all of the various whatever to Nix operations, I know that there's, Dream to Nix, which is also experimental. I've used Node to Nix and a couple of the other ones, but it just seems to me like I'm not sure, is this even a good idea, or what would you recommend for any kind of, let's just take a Node project as the example.
Yeah. So Nix itself doesn't know how to build a lot of these frameworks from like all these languages. Someone needs to implement them in Nix, and someone needs to make a Nix build work. And Nix packages can't do that in a lot of cases because of IFD restrictions, import from derivation restrictions. There are some two Nix tools in Nix packages though, but they can't be used in Nix packages itself. Anyways, so it's really kind of a who comes up with the best way to build projects in this language within Nix. And there is often multiple ways of doing that. So specifically in the JavaScript world, you have Node to Nix. I think there's 2 versions of Node to Nix. There's Yarn to Nix. There's just recently actually a build npm package has been merged in Nix packages, and also just like yesterday, some what is it called, JS to Nix or something like that has been announced. And I know someone else is working on something too. It's really quite, there's a lot of different ways of doing it, and there's no like clear general recommendation I can give. Well, no, I guess I can, and it is to look at these projects individually, see whether they're actively maintained, see how well they work, whether they have a lot of issues, try them out, see do they have test suits, are they documented, did they improve on past tools, things like that. And
also,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I would also mention that there is a different approach. Like if you are able to influence the software itself that you're packaging, then you can actually introduce, for example, in JavaScript world, there is this Yarn plugin Nixify, which actually generate Nix expression that you can then use to package the software that would basically be updated automatically when you use Yarn. So essentially, it is quite basically solves this problem from the other side. Instead of reading in log file and generating Nix expression, it generates Nix expression and stores it in the same basically repository as log file and the software itself. So it's also quite useful to know.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know about this, but yeah, it's I guess we'd also have to take a look and kind of evaluate it, how well it works. And right, if you have just your own project that you need to build, then this might be a better way. Right, different requirements sometimes have different best solutions. And right, Dream to Nix is interesting, kind of trying to generalize these tools, but then it's also experimental and being worked on. Also sometimes, so, and like JavaScript and Node is fairly popular. the more popular something is, the higher the chance is that someone from the Nix world has already taken the time to make something nice work. But if it's not popular, then chances is nobody bothered to do something like that just yet. And that's not just a black and white thing. There's a spectrum, because you might have something that's half popular, and then you have kind of a solution that works in like half as good as something twice as popular, for example. It also depends on the people that do take a look at that. For example, in the Haskell world, Haskell is kind of very like pure evaluation focused, kind of purists in many ways, kind of trying to find the best solution and so on. And so their tools generally work fairly well, I'd say. There's only really two ways there. There's Cabal to Nix and Haskell.nix. They have different trade-offs, but they both work fairly well. So yeah, it really, like, it depends in many ways. There's no, just look at the tools, try to talk to people, what the current recommendation is, like on Matrix, on GitHub issues, and so on. Yeah. Also, so Cabal to Nix, for example, comes from Nix packages. Haskell.nix is a third-party tool. And so generally, if you want more stability and kind of speed, generally the Nix packages ones are preferred. But others might be more, so third-party tools are often more sophisticated, but then also maybe not as much tested and maybe a bit slower because they don't have the efficiency requirements of Nix packages. So yeah, that's another kind of general indication, but it's not a given. It all depends really again. Yeah, we're just about out of time, I think. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, I'll stop the recording. Thanks for joining.